All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. This is our host, Brandon, my co-host, Nick, and Dan. And gentlemen, we've got the Sheffield United match review. Dub City, as we are going to call it, I think, today, Dan. So the mood should be a little bit lighter, but we've got good friend of the pod, Nisar Kinsella.
I mean, did you want me to speak after Dub City? I was just like, that threw me.
You're the wordsmith. I don't know why words should throw you, Dan. Come on now.
Look, words should hold people in suspense, right, Naz? I mean, that's the work of a good line, something that's leave you wanting more, to leave you in suspense.
Yeah, left you in suspense, caught by surprise, a lot of things, but that's what Brandon delivers, I think. But yeah, good to be back with you guys, and good to be talking about a bit more of a positive one. Let's hope it continues. I was delighted that they got over the line there. I was worried my Christmas was going to be a bit too chaotic there.
What do you mean? What if we wouldn't have gotten over the line? Are you maybe hinting at something, Naz?
Yeah, Naz.
No, but people expect the questions and tension and stuff like that. Like, come on, we want some Christmas cheer. That's all I want. And there's risk of Santa delivering some coal for Chelsea players at this rate, wasn't there?
Yeah, not wrong with that. But look, we've got a lot to dig into. Obviously, we'll talk about the Sheffield United win. We'll talk about Chelsea's other issues, problems to consider, and a look ahead to the future with Naz as we've got him. So let's jump into it as we always do with the 3-word match review. Dan, let us know how the people are feeling. Maybe uncomfortable, confused after a win?
No, I think people were generally in positive spirits. Maybe some of that Christmas cheer that Naz was sharing, but Srupad with the Christmas party every week, ? Every week is one word, so I'll allow it.
All right.
Claire with the Blues blunt blades. We love alliteration. Quick way to our heart. Greg with the on to Wolves. Very much a Belichick thing. You know what? Patriots and Chelsea not finding success at the same point in time. There is a correlation there. I can go into another episode, not to get too conspiracy theorist. Shane with the points over process. Ibresne with the no Nkunku nonsense. Chris L with the real Casado arriving. G Page with coal as ice. And then John dropping a little AABB poem structure here that I thought, you know what? I'm going to allow it. And so the Chelsea get a win. The blades were dumped in the bin. An ugly affair at the Stamford Bridge Lair. More like a footballing sin.
Oh, my God.
I mean, next time, just pull it out. Give special mention. 3-word match review, Dan. We got to stick to time. We already allowed this week is one word.
This you got to remember, I'm treating this more like a college professor would. There's a lot of latitude.
Clearly.
How you get recognized.
Nick, he doesn't have tenure.
No, he doesn't have tenure. He's trying every week. This is an 18-word match review. That's something, Dan. Really, really special stuff.
Interesting. Give him a little bit of power. This is where we end up. Look, I put Sheffield's gift received. Appreciate everything they didn't do for us yesterday, include fighting for the result. Nick, what about you?
Second half batteries. We finally saw some energy in the second half, so I was pleased about that.
Awesome. And then Dan.
Well, he could have gone with charge for Carabao, like leading into next week if you wanted to go with the charge type of thing.
Dan, you could if you wanted to.
No, mine was knife sharpening suspended. There things were getting a little touchy, a little pointed heading into this one.
Okay.
People paused.
All right. Naz.
Build on it. Just think that, we expect them to win. So, it's good. We'll enjoy it. I'm sure all Chelsea fans should, but they'll also want a build on it, I think.
Yeah, no doubt that this should not be an isolated result if we want this season to go anywhere. But look, as we always do, we appreciate all of you out there in our amazing community. Continue to hit the 5-star reviews in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you want check out the moody background that Naz is in. Very interesting, dramatic effect that he's brought to the pod today. So check it out on YouTube and subscribe. And then obviously Discord. We have an amazing community there that never let the conversation drop. They're on top of everything. So if you need a new group to join, check it out. Discord, link in the description. And lastly, Sam, CFC Central, knocking out these weekly newsletters. If you aren't subscribed to London is Blue Dispatch, the weekly newsletter drops on, is it Wednesdays?
It is Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
Yes.
All right.
Good job.
Just want to make sure. Do that. It is free and it will make your day a little bit brighter. But we have to jump into the match. It was Sheffield United this past Saturday, the 16th of December. Those of you that know will know, Dan, in the Premier League at Stamford Bridge, in case you somehow missed it, Chelsea scored 2 and conceded none. Nick, mic drop as we go through the goal scores. Can you believe in Christmas miracles?
Well, the clean sheet was extra special. That was nice. But yeah, maybe.
It was extra nice for who we're about to name in the lineup as well.
Sure.
54th minute, we had Cole Palmer assist from Raz as he got to the end line. 61st minute, Nico Jackson assist from Cole Palmer. So again, Cole staying in the business all day. Nico at the tap in. Naz, was that the most confusing goal you've ever seen go in? The Nico tap in?
Yeah, it was like, just couldn't understand like why everyone was just flying all over the place in the box. Like Sheffield United players were launching themselves on the floor, like Gallagher and Sterling just getting little touches on the ball, and you're like, where is this going? Is anyone offside? Is VAR going to find something to ruin this? And you watch the replay and you're like, absolutely fine, but you're like, you couldn't make sense of it initially. It probably takes 4 or 5 watches to make sense of it, but. Cole Palmer, coolest guy in the building. He just sort of just takes his time, just puts it across goal and puts it on a plate there for Jackson. But yeah, really strange build up to that goal. I think Sheffield United had a bit of a brain fart, but it was good to type the victory there.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing like the ball going in the back of that. Everyone just stands around, including the referee, not sure what just happened. So Dan, hit us with the lineup. How did we start this one?
Well, look, it was Petrovic between the sticks. That's right. Rob Sanchez getting a little bit of a break to rehab that knee situation. And look, as Sam and I suggested, it was the back four of center backs. That's right. Levi Colwell, Axel Tisasi in the left and right back positions, and Benoit Badiashile and Thiago Silva as your center back duo, Conor Gallagher and Moises Caicedo as your midfield duo, with Mykhailo Mudryk, Cole Palmer, Raheem Sterling, and Nico Jackson as your attack. But look, Enzo Fernandez and Armando Broja did make an appearance as well, both getting around 20 to 15 minutes, depending upon when they came onto the pitch, and Ian Motson and Malo Gusto as very late substitutions. And look, double goalkeeper bench with Bergstrom and Bettinelli, along with Gilchrist, Matos, and Nkunku, who did not make any appearance, even though he did get, he was seen warming up, Naz. There was warm-up minutes for Nkunku if there were not necessarily minutes on the pitch.
Yeah, it was a funny one. Like everyone warmed up at half time except Nkunku, and then like straight away at just after half time, Chelsea 0-0. And Nkunku goes and warms up there, and he gets the ripple of applause, a bit more optimism and excitement. I don't know if that was a clever like sort of emotional move from Poch to try and get the crowd a bit lifted for the second half. And who knows, maybe Nkunku was the catalyst, just his presence on the touchline there. But no, we didn't see him any more than those warm ups. He did a few of those, but it was probably a case of we don't need him. Let's hold him back. Let's wait. He'll be here soon, but we'll give you a little look. But we'll just we didn't need him today, so we won't use him.
Naz, I apologize. I haven't read your piece yet, but surely we mentioned that this is the first time Bettinelli's featured in a match day squad this season, right?
Oh, of course. I mean, that was the main thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a
Always
real.
going to the best points there.
Look, the funny thing about that is it's just been, Petrovic on the bench, obviously Sanchez starting. Bettinelli's been injured most of this season, so that maybe that's why Bergstrom was there, because they weren't 100% sure how fit they were. I don't know. The other thing is the dev squad played yesterday, in case you missed it, 9-1, just thrashing. I believe it was West Brom. But there's a little bit of juggling. Then the 18s are playing right now as we record, so there is some of that. Obviously, when it comes to a third and fourth string goalkeepers. Minutes are a little bit different, but yeah, it's definitely not ideal. Only Alfie Gilchrist, the only other center back on the bench, because all of our senior center backs that are healthy were on the pitch, but a little bit different of a lineup and a bench, for sure. Sheffield United's 4-1-4-1. Definitely, I think I was a little bit interested to see how that lined up with only the double pivot of Connor and Moises Caicedo in the middle, because I didn't think Mudryk, Palmer, or Sterling were going to do a whole lot of tracking back, but we all saw Sterling's run on that corner to break up the counter. Some of the top line stats in this one: Chelsea accumulated a massive 3.05 XG against Sheffield's 0.36. We had 78% possession at home, 15 shots, 6 on target. To their 6 shots, only 1 on target. Chelsea, 9 fouls to their 14, 1 caution to their 3. We had 5 big chances. 3 were missed, which I think is why a lot of people were annoyed in the beginning of the first half. And then from there, we had 1 save to their 4. We prevented 0.18 to their negative 0.04. So one random stat, Nick, I need a break. Go ahead and take over for me on this one.
Just breathe deep, man. It's all good. 181. Raheem Sterling has been directly involved in 181 goals in the Premier League. It's 120 goals, 61 assists. The same number as Michael Owen and Dennis Bergkamp company. It's a very interesting group of folks to be kind of thereabouts with, Naz. I mean, those are both kind of legends of the league in their own right, and he's now kind of up there.
Yeah, I think Sterling's getting a lot of these kind of stats over his career, where he's at this age, 27, I think he is 28. He's starting to chip away at some of the big records of like goals and assists. And it kind of shows you maybe that we maybe take him for granted a little bit. I don't mean Chelsea fans. I mean like the league as a whole. He's across Liverpool, Man City, and now Chelsea. He's delivering good numbers, and I think longevity in football is not easy to have. And I think Sterling's got pretty good longevity. And important assist for Palmer's goal. We could say something about Sheffield United's defending, but important, and we just need a lot more of that, don't we, in the coming weeks?
Again, a lot of that done before he got to us, but that doesn't mean that we still don't have a quality player, which is we're going after. Nick, what about the MPET shithouse moment of the match?
I don't know if you have a better one, but I thought that Armando Broja missing from 1 foot out to not make Sheffield United's goal difference any worse than it already is was incredibly charitable. And so I'm going to give him the shithouse moment of the match in a different sort of way than I normally award that. So how about that?
That's so interesting that you would choose that. That was not where I think you would go. I thought the muted celebration for the Jackson goal, because it just was like unironically like shithouse, and the fact that like, you know what, we kind of just did this thing. It happened, and we're just going to go forward, continuing to play the game.
A little bit of a shrug, yeah.
It's it definitely was to Nick's point, a charitable shithouse moment, right? that's how we look at it. All right, we're gonna take a first ad break. When we get back, we're gonna jump through the match as it happens. So thank you to the sponsors, and we'll be right back. All right, Chess fans, we're back with another partnership through the end of the year. We got NordVPN coming at you to make sure you are safe and you're able to watch Chelsea no matter where you are traveling during the holiday season. A lot of you know I just got back from Costa Rica from Thanksgiving with the family, and guess what? I used a VPN to watch Chelsea while I was traveling. I was able to watch it on Peacock, no problems at all. So if you're traveling out of the country this holiday season, make sure to get NordVPN so you don't miss when we play Wolves on the 24th, when we play again after Boxing Day, and again before the end of the year. There are tons of matches coming up. You don't want to miss a single one. The other thing to think about, are you want to watch Match of the Day? Are you trying to see the BBC coverage, Sky coverage? You can do it with over 5,000 servers from NordVPN. So if you go to nordvpn.com/LondonIsBlue, you're going to go ahead and pick the plan that's right for you, and we're going to give you 4 extra months for being a fan of London is Blue. That's right. You get an extra 4 months hanging out with us. We absolutely appreciate you checking them out. Now, if you aren't using a VPN, hey, I hate to break it to you, you're the only one. Not only do they keep you secure and all your information is encrypted, no more IP address tracking. The other thing is they've doubled down and they've added threat protection feature. So say goodbye to intrusive website ads, malware. Even if you download an infected file, threat protection kicks in and deletes it before it makes a mess of your computer. Go to nordvpn.com/ sheffield.com/LondonIsBlue. Try it. Huge holiday deal. There's no risk. You get a 30-day money-back guarantee with NordVPN. That's how much they believe in the product. Support our sponsor, nordvpn.com/LondonIsBlue. Go watch match today. Go watch Chelsea if you're traveling. Never going to have to worry about being tracked on the internet again. Link in the description. You know what to do. All right, the win breaks through Chelsea's doldrums. First half, second half, yay. So we'll kick it off, Dan, as you have it here. We have the 4 center backs at the back. I was pretty concerned about this in terms of ability to go and support the attack, especially against Sheffield today. I thought they kind of sit back at the halfway line or deeper and just wait for the play to come, which would create a tough day for the midfield. But overall, it actually seemed to be okay. Don't know how much you want to curve the test results because it's Sheffield.
Well, I mean, to be fair, this is also a Sheffield side that was pretty competitive the last 2 matches they played under the Chris Wilder appointment. Again, just remember they did sack their manager before this, so there was the concern around a new manager bounce heading into this match. But in general, I think this lineup gave you height. So it gave you the height you were looking for and kind of defending set pieces, which would have been a concern if Sheffield United decide to become more adventurous at any point in this match. I mean, in general, they did exactly what you would have hoped for, which is get Chelsea back into a position where we had a clean sheet, where we weren't conceding shots freely. I think the biggest concern, Naz, and this was the issue we ran into, is that we were really kind of trying to play through the center initially and not necessarily rely upon Disasi or Levi Colwell to kind of push forward, kind of press on the fullbacks. And that really in the first half made it super difficult to try to get anything going. And that's where, I think Poch, in the second half had to kind of tinker, not just with the attack, which we can talk about, but I think in the center backs trying to get his players to go a little bit more wide, create some opportunity on the wings versus just trying to force everything through the center, which wasn't working.
Yeah. I think, you summed it up really well there, but I think Pochettino's explanation of how he got the team going in the second half was quite interesting. Like you say, I think the build-up was quite poor and they couldn't really break down Sheffield United in the first half, and the XG was low for both teams. I mean, listening to Brandon describe the stats there of goals and XG and things like that, that was almost all in the second half. So, yeah, first half, I was a bit worried. I didn't think they played that well. But it's pretty impressive how Pochettino really understood why it wasn't going well and how to change it. So I think it was a lot down to the centre-backs not pushing forward as sort of full-backs. We had Disasi and Colwell, left back and right back. I think Disasi in particular is really uncomfortable in that position in attacking areas. And when Chelsea have all the ball, they just let Disasi play as long as he wants with the ball. But you stop the guys getting the ball who do you damage. And Cole Palmer's one of those guys playing in a more central position, let's not forget. And he couldn't get on the ball in the first half, so he barely impacted the game. And when Cole Palmer doesn't impact the game, the others don't really either. So, the wingers didn't do enough. Modric and Sterling in the first half. Cole Palmer was snuffed out. Jackson was really struggling to get in the game, got offside too much. But then it was really impressive how second half they tweaked that. And I think if you read Pochettino's comments or listen to his press conference, he'll tell you that basically all he did was switch Cole Palmer and Sterling around, really. So Sterling suddenly played as a striker almost and running in behind with Jackson. And Palmer was on the right wing and Palmer had space to do stuff. And Palmer started doing stuff and that changed the game. So I was really impressed. And I'm sure there were more other changes. He said he changed how they built up with the midfielders and fullbacks as well. But I think getting Palmer on the ball and getting the quick guys running behind, that was the key to sort of turning the game and turning the tide and getting Chelsea what they expect, which was 3 points and 2 goals. And probably if Breuer didn't do his shit house of the week, it would have been 3.
Nick, obviously, not a lot to do on the defensive day. I think, to that point, we got a little bit of flexibility, but Naz just opened the door for Palmer, had the goal, had the assist, continues to just essentially be the talisman for this team. To be quite honest, I don't remember if he was even signed when we did our preseason predictions, but he's almost filling in the Nkunku role better than I think we would have even expected. So anyways, he had himself just another just like I said, talisman day.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, I put in the group chat, and it couldn't have been too much past halftime. And I don't know, Naz, if you kind of felt this in the stadium, and it might have been because he wasn't getting the ball as frequently as we're used to, but it almost seemed like his touch was off in the first half. Like he couldn't rein the ball in, he couldn't dribble, he couldn't move past people. He was getting, I remember he got chased from behind by a center back that absolutely ate his lunch. And I was like, like I'm curious, like what's going on with you? Because usually he's so dynamic on the ball. His movement causes defenders to pause, like they don't want to dive in because he can shift the ball so easy from a lateral standpoint. And then in the second half, he was a completely different guy. Like it was like back to normal. He was playing in the right passes. He was receiving the ball in dangerous areas, and really seemed to like come alive. I don't know if he got a talking to at halftime for that, or if the space just opened up, like you said, but. I was so kind of like befuddled in the first half as to why he wasn't able to kind of do his thing. And, I think that shift to maybe more of that 4-4-2 sort of shape helped him out.
Yeah, I think he's very left-footed. So I think and I don't even criticize him for it, but his left foot's so good, but he's very left-footed. So I think defenders predict where he's going to be. And if he's in a central area, he's very left-footed. There's less space for him to move into. Now, he can go outside with his left foot. Like you say, he drags back, he fakes shots, he's very agile, but he's left-footed. So, like, cutting inside all the time, I felt he just sort of kept cutting inside into danger and losing possession. But then when he had more space, it was like, man, this weapon's alive. And yeah, I love Brandon's assessment as well, that he's almost what we thought Nkunku was going to be. And I think tactically he plays a lot of that role. So I think when Nkunku starts to come in, it's going to be interesting to see how these two play off each other. Because I do think that actually Palmer's made Nkunku, I mean, they've still missed him, Chelsea, but missed him slightly less because they've got, a player who kind of does that role quite well. I almost think he slows the game down, and I think Chelsea need players like that. A lot of the guys just seem to want to run in behind, so aggressive, so quick, but I think sometimes you need that composure and just a guy who slows down the game, sees the picture of what's going on, and then delivers. And that's what I think he did yesterday. Was he's very consistent at being that guy who slows the game down, sees the picture, delivers, and that left foot's just magical. It really is. So yeah, you just back that left foot any day of the week to find the back of the net or find an assist at some point in the match.
He had the free kick laid on too, right? And it just didn't have the pace to beat the goalkeeper. But as far as like the technique and the movement on the ball, it was there. You just needed more behind it. So I'm interested to see how that develops. I mean, again, Cole Palmer, he's still super young, and so he still has a lot to developing. Well, how I am impressed by him is like his movement is very fluid, right? Like how quickly he can like get people off balance, because he looks a little bit awkward at times, but the ball at his feet and the way kind of he moves is he's always set himself up to hit it with his left foot, right? I think we've seen like a lot of like those pure ball strikers, whether it's like Ziyech or Beckham or guys like that, they always have that ball right where they need it to be able to hit a 60-yard pass or like line up for a shot. He's always ready in those chances. And obviously, look, Sheffield defended with a deep block, so they're going to make it difficult for him, but his mind is there, his head is there, and I appreciate that, obviously, in a time when it feels like no one really wants to shoot. But he's standout yet again. I mean, so I guess I didn't know much, right? Because I'm not a big Manchester City fan and things like that, but Joe Shields clearly nailed this one, Naz, as far as like bringing in a top player.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that it's been a great signing for Chelsea. So yeah, well done Chelsea for getting it right. And it was the last signing that was made as well, so it was almost like less time to think about it. But you've ended up getting a good one. It shows you maybe sometimes waiting to the end of the window, you can get a good option, especially from a rival. It's quite hard to get like good players out of rivals, but I think that there's a really interesting part of Palmer that and I think that's why he's doing well at Chelsea and didn't do as well at City. I think that he has a lot more freedom at Chelsea. Like, I think at Man City, he's obsessed about things like tactical fouling, moving in the way that Pep wants. But here at Chelsea, he's just playing free, doing what he wants to do. Like, he's playing on the park at times. And I think that that's the big difference why He's sort of got to a level that maybe even Man City didn't realise, and maybe under Pep, and of course we all know Pep's possibly the best manager in the world. He's certainly up there, and yeah, but maybe like he's just better suited as a Poch player, and maybe needed that change of scenery. And I think that's what's happened with him. Is that I don't know if he would have been this good at Man City, and I think that he's in the right place at the right time, and he's taken advantage of it. And yeah, I'm shocked actually at how good he's been. I thought he'd be a good signing, but I didn't think he'd make quite this impact.
The two former citizens in Cole Palmer and Raheem Sterling. I mean, you look at the contributions they have. I mean, they're second and third in the number of goals that they've got for Chelsea this season. 6 goals for Palmer, obviously. Several of those coming from penalties, 5 goals from Sterling. But together, I mean, 16 goal contributions across the matches they played, and only behind Nico Jackson with the 7 goals that he's now scored for Chelsea this season. So really, I don't know. I mean, it's the best thing maybe that Manchester's ever given to Chelsea. These two players.
And to tie off, normally Chelsea aren't in this bad of a position to enable us to rely on a young player like this. To your point, Naz, the timing and the circumstances, we're normally not in this situation where we're hoping a young 20s player can drag us out of a bit of a rough run, but here we are. Moving to the midfield duo. Nick, I tweeted out before the match, I was like, 4 center backs, 4 attackers, 1 on each side of the pitch. It's going to be a long day for Connor and Caicedo, but ended up not being nearly as bad. They seemed to get along really well. What did you make of the midfield duo?
Yeah, super impressed. It wasn't like a classic 2, like in midfield, the way that they played. It was much more of a Caicedo kind of protecting the back line in as Ollie will call it, a single pivot. And then Connor marauding. I mean, that was his role yesterday. He was pressing from midfield. He was winning the ball back in midfield. He was shooting at times. Like, both of them had a very specific role to play, and both of them played that role to perfection. I know that there have been a lot of Connor haters, featured on social, featured everywhere, frankly, the last 3 weeks. And frankly, the performances have not been as good as they were. This was a return to kind of more early season form for Connor specifically, and I thought Caicedo in particular was my standout of the day. I saw 100 million pounds of a player right there, Naz, in the way that he was so dynamic and frustrating everything that Sheffield United were trying to do.
Yeah, I saw he was just. I think what was really impressive was the way he moved the ball, and I think we always see him as a midfield destroyer, but actually in possession he's really good as well. And maybe that's why he plays well with Connor, because he can be that possession guy and let Connor just run around as he's almost the wrecking ball more. I thought Connor was more that guy, but for me, I just like the way he picks up the ball from the centre backs, moves it quickly. I mean, a lot of the problem was how quick Chelsea were moving it, but he was certainly not one to blame for that. And I really thought, yeah, it was a major step forward for him. He seems pretty calm about like his form not being very good at the start of his time at Chelsea, which impresses me as well. Like, so I think mentality wise, he's got it. I think that ability wise on the ball, he's got it. I think that physically, he's been a bit of a step behind from the trips from South America and stuff like that. So he hasn't quite been the destroyer we want him to be in certain games where Chelsea have been under pressure. But I think that will come when he's getting a good rhythm, when he's, Chelsea aren't playing, well, there's no international break till March now. So they don't have to see Enzo and Caicedo go away. I think that's been a problem. And then the lack of pre-season as well. I think I did a deep dive into his data a little while back, and it was probably about 2-3 weeks ago. And his passing data has actually improved at Chelsea. And I think that the Sheffield United game was a great example of that. You know, since Brighton, every season his passing data improves, but his physical data was down. And I found that quite interesting. And I think that it was a step forward. And he's going to be important for what Chelsea do. No matter, I think he makes Chelsea better when he's in the team. And I still don't think he's at his best, but I think he is a guaranteed starter, despite not being his best. So that shows you how good he can be.
I think it was helpful for him to be play again when he plays on the right, particularly with Disasi and Silva. Disasi a little more uncomfortable. Silva, I think as a older center back, that's a little bit of an extra insurance policy as well, Nick, in terms of giving the side a little bit more stability and security, and particularly as we think about how teams might look to exploit the players who are maybe a little bit more uncomfortable or maybe just a half a step behind. And I like that element too, is that this felt like he added that additional layer of security to the side in that area, even though Sheffield weren't the most impressive team in terms of trying to attack back or clap back at Chelsea during points of this match. It gives me confidence for the next run of matches because, obviously Gusto may not start necessarily the next Premier League game, right? Like we know how Poch has his kind of like staggered approach to bring people back into form and back into full fitness. And so maybe we do see the 4 center back pairing, one or two more times before we get Malo Gusto back and kind of add that dynamism back into the side.
Two thoughts here, Naz. The first thought was I thought that because Connor and Caicedo both have a fair amount of athleticism about them, that kind of balanced the effort that each was putting in, which I found interesting, maybe compared to what we've seen in the pivot this year so far. Know that that's not Enzo's game. Obviously, he's not a physical destroyer. He's much more of a ball progressor and attacker sort of player. But the second thing I thought of is if that deeper lying role where he's basically the screen in front of the defense, if that's really how he's going to thrive and maybe unlock other players to do their thing, do you think that Poch will move into a 4-3-3, more like kind of stable formation with him as really the lone kind of 6 and playing Enzo and Connor as pure 8s where they don't have as much defensive responsibility? Is that a thought that crossed your mind?
Yeah, I think that could happen, but I think what would need to happen for that to work is like, Liverpool have really decisive wingers and forwards. So if Chelsea aren't relying on goals from all over the pitch, that's good. But I think like if they are, then they probably feel like we need to push up somebody as a 10, try and have 4 guys who can maybe nick a goal. Maybe we'll find another way. But I think that if Chelsea get really decisive forwards, that would make it a better option. But I think it might suit Enzo better because I think Enzo's struggling to deliver the goals and assists we hoped he might be able to. I still think he can do it, but he's just not doing it at Chelsea right now. I think Enzo's a bigger problem than Caicedo right now and trying to get him working. And the midfield balance was interesting because I feel like Chelsea had it. Like there was a period where Caicedo, Gallagher and Enzo were just so good together. There was a few games, I think it was probably like early October, maybe end of September, but that seems to have been lost again, and I'm hoping that they can rediscover it. It's just not quite happening for the trio together, but I think that Gallagher must play at the minute, and Caicedo and Enzo will play a lot as well. But I just think he needs to step it up, and maybe it was a blessing that they pulled him out. But yeah, I think that's the limitation with the 4-3-3. If Palmer keeps delivering, Sterling and Jackson, they're all getting some numbers, but I think they need to get a few more for that to be a smart solution, really.
Well, Enzo got a break, which it ended up being well timed. He came on as a sub, as Dan said earlier, but overall, like midfield weren't really a challenge, which is interesting because if you look at the average possession of Sheffield in this match, they were extremely narrow. They did not use the width whatsoever. And so to have the just those two players in there and have Connor create so many turnovers that led to chances, it ended up working well. So I was pleasantly surprised. Somebody even tweeted at me and said, essentially, like, your prediction happened, like, not at all. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, thankfully, Chelsea controlled this so well, which was a delight. So we're going to take our last ad break. When we get back, we've got a lot more to deep dive with Naz. Thank you to the sponsors, and we'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got more pods coming this week per usual. Nick, we're trying to keep the festive season festive here at the pod.
There's a lot going on. We are doing our best to keep everything kind of in line for the week. Obviously, you guys know that we're going to try and get Matt back again. We're going to have some holiday specials coming up. We will be publishing as soon as we can after the Wolves game on Christmas Eve. So if you are traveling that day. Have no fear. We will be doing that so that we can get back to hanging out with our families. So thank you, Premier League schedulers, for again fucking with everybody. And then on Christmas Day, we're going to re-release the Famous CFC holiday special pod that we did last year as a nice little treat for you guys. So lots and lots and lots of podcasts coming up. I think we have something like 12 or 13 podcasts to the end of December that are scheduled on the books. So just like click in every day, there will be something new.
It's almost like the 12 days of Christmas. I think there's 11 right now. We could fit a 12th one in just to make it match.
On the 13 days of podcasts my dear love gave to me. Another podcast. That's what. Come on.
Yeah, no surprises there. Same thing every day. All right. So decisions, dilemmas, and discussions. Naz, we've obviously talked about this with off the pod and WhatsApp and things like that, but the injury crisis quotations doesn't seem to be getting any better. Actually, it seems to be getting quite worse, which the last press conference update from Pochettino, where Reece James, they're going to be figuring out the day when this pod is out, what the next steps are, potentially surgery or not. How are you reading that? Any insight you've got for Reece? Because he's young. What is he, 24? He's got plenty of career ahead, but like his lack of availability is it's hurting his England career, his Chelsea career. It affects Chelsea. It just is a lineup. If you can't rely on someone who's one of our best players, it's almost like N'Golo Kante again, where your best players never fit. How do we manage this situation? So what do you how are you reading the situation right now?
Yeah, I think what's happened is Chelsea sort of really had one last good go of getting him back on the pitch without any major intervention, just using the usual physio approach, building him up, try and get him back on. I mean, I think that the coaching staff at Chelsea think they've handled Reece James as well as they possibly could. I mean, edging him back to fitness, playing him for, initially it would have been 10, 15 minutes, then 25, then 45, then 60, then 60 again, 70, that kind of thing. I mean, he's not played 90 minutes since April. So they've been handling him in a very careful way, trying to get him back and really building him up behind the scenes as well, getting him to, not go to England duty. That was decided just so he had another 2 weeks of building himself up. But yet he still breaks down at Everton. It was really sad, and I've heard that it's quite a bad hamstring pull. So it's kind of a case of like he's going to be out for a long time anyway. And I know he's taking it hard, and I feel really sorry for him. I mean, he's a great player. We all want to see him on the pitch. I don't mean just Chelsea fans, but he's massive for England. I think he's actually one of the best right backs in the world when fully on song. But it's been a long time since we've seen him fully on song and fully fit and things like that. And it's become clear, I think, that Chelsea need to have a real deep dive, a real analysis. And I think that that's what this has been. I mean, he saw a specialist on Tuesday after doing the injury. I think it was a Sunday match. Yeah, it was a Sunday match. So they went and had the Christmas party. Reece went and did the Christmas party. He was the guy who organised it as captain. It was a Christmas party for players.
Can't really miss that one, like you have to you have to be there, hamstrings and all.
Yeah, when you're the leader. Yeah, I'm sure he was very sore and moving gingerly on the night, but hopefully somebody went and got him his drinks when they did it. But yeah, I think that was pretty brave of him, pretty tough, and I think that everyone at Chelsea saw it as a really good move. A lot of people will be like, "You lose to Everton, why are you trying to celebrate?" But these guys need to come together and stuff. And then on Tuesday had the specialist visit, so it's an external medical professional who's a specialist in hamstrings. He spoke to him. Now the medical staff have gone away, taken those recommendations. They'll talk to Reece on Monday. The manager, I'm sure, will be involved, and they'll decide a plan of action, and that could be surgery. Now, I know a lot of fans have been clamoring for surgery for Reece, but none of us know. We're not medical professionals. I'm not a medical professional, never mind fans. So I think that the right thing to do is just let these guys decide what they're going to decide. It might be surgery, it might not be, but having a strong opinion about Reece James's health and the health of his hamstrings, I don't think that's healthy. I think that it's not healthy to, expect anything of Reece. Just expect him to do what's best for himself and what's best for Chelsea. And I think that that's what they'll do. And hopefully he won't be out for too long, but I think he will be, to be honest. And whatever they decide, be it surgery or be it some other route, I think it's going to be, this is the long game now. This is about protecting his career longer term. And Chelsea have invested a lot in Reece. They know how good he is. He's worth what they've invested, but he's only worth that if he's fit. So getting him fit is paramount. Everyone wants James fit. He's really loved at Chelsea. And I think that whatever they decide is hopefully the best and hopefully gets to the bottom of it. And I think it's almost a case of let's forget about Reece this season almost. And let's just make sure his long-term career for the rest of his Chelsea contract is secure.
Yeah, I kind of read surgery and like whatever is just code for long-term solution. So like whether it's surgery or it's something completely else, like what we can't do is run him out there on 50% of a hamstring, right? Like that just is dumb. We've done that for 2 years now. I think we've tried that approach. So whatever the choice is, whether it's something like surgery or something else, like it's very clear that they need to get this shit right. Like his career is completely upended the last 2 years by this thing. So I hope, I agree with you. We're not medical professionals on purpose. Like I didn't go into that field as a choice, but you hear and read enough stuff where it's like, at some point there has to be a different choice made,
Yeah, everyone looks at the data and sees how many games he's missed and realizes this isn't sustainable, this isn't good, let's sort it out. So that's the issue. The only criticism you maybe could have is, could we have done this sooner? I think a lot of people might have said yes. I mean, also he played against Real Madrid with an injured hamstring. I was there, I watched it. I watched him pull his hamstring. I saw the exact moment it went, and I was like, how is this guy still on the pitch? But Chelsea wanted to try and beat Real Madrid, fair play, but we went there with Kante playing with an injured knee in a Europa League final, and Chelsea won. But you look at the cost of that, and similarly, I just hope that this guy can get back, and I think he can. He's young, he's strong, but yeah, long-term solution now.
Kind of a surprising one, Naz, is Cucurella, ankle injury that has now turned into potentially, we're seeing reports of being out till February. Like, that kind of hit me out of nowhere. Did that hit you out of nowhere?
Yeah, well, I didn't really see it during the match. I just saw him come off. He didn't look that badly injured, but turns out he was. And another bad one, really, by the looks of it. Surgery done. It was ankle and foot, I think. So it affected both parts. I don't think he's out for a mega long time, but sounds like till February or something like that. So, real shame. He was starting to come back, wasn't he? And he was one of the right back options as well for Chelsea. So that's another right back gone, and another reason why Disasi's, who looks even more uncomfortable at right back than Cucurella did, is playing there.
And then Sanchez, it looks like kind of a minor thing. Hopefully, knock on wood, maybe doesn't play until January or something like that, but could come back in late December. Is that kind of the vibe you're getting?
Yeah, I'm not 100% on Sanchez. He's also seen a specialist, so I'm hoping it's not too bad, but I'm not counting my chickens, and I've not had it confirmed with him what's going on. So I don't think it's a real serious one, but could still be a few weeks out. But I think they trust Petrovic, so I expect to see a lot of Petrovic. They're not scared about him being number one. I mean, they signed him to be potentially number one anyway, so this is just his shot now. The door's open, and there's a great number three. Chelsea have a better. I know we were joking about Bettinelli, but he's a better number three than most clubs have. So he's pretty strong. So I think Chelsea aren't panicking about the goalkeeper situation. They're ready, and a few more will be back in January as well. So January will be a good time. Lavia is back in 10 days maximum. So I'd read maybe Palace. You could see him on a bench for probably first start against Preston. Hopefully that would be a great achievement for him. So I think that, we'll see a lot of players back around January.
I think as we look at like some of the other kind of things, there's a lot of players who are coming back. I think you're right, Naz, but I think the one that we mentioned earlier that we haven't kind of gotten to talk about maybe more fully is just Nkunku and kind of his role that he might play over the next couple of weeks here. I guess as you're thinking about it and knowing the way that Pochettino has eked players into the side slowly as they come back in from long-term injury is there's 4 matches left in the season, in the end of the year. There's 360 minutes plus stoppage time. Do you have a thought maybe on how much maybe we should calibrate our expectations for what we might see between now and the end of the year?
Yeah, I'd say don't expect too much on Nkunku on the pitch. I'd say, yeah, he'll make his debut from the bench. I probably don't expect him to start any of the games, really. If he started a game in December, that would be impressive. I think maybe he could start as well against Preston, and that would be his first start. I think the Preston game will be quite a good opportunity for Poch to like bring people back. You know, maybe against a slightly slower pace of opposition, not as good team. They're still okay, but yeah, that would be the game I think we'd expect. So, and Nkunku, I was also looking at his previous injuries from RB Leipzig, and he tends to get eased back pretty slowly wherever he's been. So I think that would be his preference as well, just sort of ease him back, don't get re-injured. You know, I think that's taking care with Nkunku. He's been out a long time now, so expect that slow. Maybe Gusto could be a bit quicker, but even he's been out for a while now, so he might be a quicker return. But yeah, and Nkunku's been out long enough that you've got to be careful, and I think Chelsea will be. But it's still a boost to have him as an impact player, right? You know, if you draw in against Luton, then you bring him on, and he might score the winner. That's the kind of guy Chelsea have got now. So yeah, it's a good moment for Chelsea. It's positive, but it's going to be slower than a lot of fans expect. And I think Poch also doesn't want to rush him back, you know, when, you know, putting pressure on him to deliver. Like it's up to the guys who are really fit to deliver. And it's going to take maybe even a month or 2 for Nkunku to be fully on song, you know, 90 minutes, really the top star. I think Poch is just like, will ease you in for a long time, and maybe maybe even in like February, that will be the time when you see him 90 minutes. You know, the player that we want him to be. I think that's probably when we're going to see him like that.
That was my point about yesterday. Is like, look, man, if you can't beat Sheffield United, the 20th place team in the league, with a minus 1 billion goal differential, Nkunku's not the solution to that problem. Like, there's nothing that like he's going to be able to contribute that you haven't already tried with other players at that point, coming back from an injury, having never played for Chelsea in a real match before. Like it just seems like such a huge jump of a conclusion to get to that, like, oh, he's the savior point, you know, like that just was nonsense to me. And I'm glad to hear you say it. I think a lot of people had expectations for him to play yesterday, maybe play a half or something like that. Like, you've already gone 4.5 months with him being out, right? So, like, what's another week or two? What's another 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get him back and running? Like, it seems like that would just be a terrible, rash decision that you don't need to really make when you have players who can, you know, potentially do that job. So I was a little annoyed with the temper of the conversation online, like expecting him to come in and, you know, deliver 3 goals in 20 minutes at the end of the game yesterday. I don't know how you feel about that, Naz, but that was kind of my take.
No, you're absolutely spot on. I think that anyone who sees Nkunku as a savior for Chelsea's problems is in dreamland. So
you're speaking to me, so let's just you and I, let's have a conversation, Naz.
Yeah. I mean, you're the most guilty party, I believe. But yeah.
Did you see preseason?
Well, I did, and I was impressed. But yeah, I think that's probably the issue. I think Poch wants to get way away from that. He doesn't want people thinking this guy's a savior. He wants him to like slowly, quietly build himself up to be that guy who blows up the balloons after he scores goals. But like, yeah, it's going to take him time. So. Yeah, and also I think what Poch always says as well, and we've seen a lot of Bundesliga players struggle. He doesn't want him to be in this situation where he's coming to a league, not only a league he doesn't know, like a language he's not like fully fluent in, like a more physical league, a faster league, like better teams. I mean, like Sheffield United aren't the best of the Premier League, but like you go up against like a Villa or something, that would be a team that would finish second in the Bundesliga at least, maybe even pushing Bayern for the title. So we're talking about a massive step up in level that everyone at Chelsea pretty much has struggled with. There's a reason Cole Palmer's been the best signing because he knows the level. But Nkunku's going to have to find a level. He's going to be way less fit than Cole Palmer. He's going to be way less fit than Mudryk, way less fit than Sterling. He's got to get his fitness up as well. He's going to be against some beasts at the back. So there's loads of issues for him, right? When he comes back, he's got to work all this stuff out, work out how he can help his teammates. I mean, the team's evolved since pre-season. It's an entirely different team. Like Cole Palmer's playing in his position basically and doing really well. So he might have to find a new way to impact the game. There's loads of issues for him to sort out. I mean, he's going to make small impacts here and there from the bench, but these kind of things are going to take time. I mean, he might not even see the best of him till next season. I hope we get him at his best sooner, but he might need the preseason next year. He might need this sort of next few months to adapt to the league, maybe getting a few goals, but not absolutely killing it. And maybe it's about next season a bit for him. So yeah, I think Chelsea need him. They'll find a way to use him, but there's a lot of asterisks there where we've got to be a bit careful to temper expectations. But it won't stop me. My rant won't stop people saying we need Nkunku as soon as Chelsea lose, which Chelsea will lose at some point again soon, I'm sure. But yeah,
Come on,
the
Naz.
The other consideration, though, is probably that, we have Nico Jackson, Chelsea's current league scoring leader at 7, who once the middle of January hits will likely disappear for about a month as AFCON is going on. Senegal likely favorites to repeat and defend their title. So he would likely it would be a really, really good thing if he was up and firing on all cylinders at that point. But I think that brings up the question around how hard are Chelsea going to go in the striker market in January once the ball has dropped, once the confetti has landed, and January 1st, 2024 hits? Will we go hard? And how much of this is a consideration, like Nkunku getting back up to speed, Jackson going away for a little bit, Broya not necessarily at the level that maybe Chelsea need? It feels like Chelsea are going to want to go hard. And is that the signal that you're getting?
Yeah, I think they're definitely they're assessing it really all the time and day by day. But Poch was quite strong in his comments after the Everton defeat, where they were pretty wasteful, Chelsea, in front of goal, or didn't look threatening. It was a bit of both, really, in that game. And I think that he was pretty strong in his comments. But I think since then he's rode back on them. Poch is really honest about his transfer feelings, his emotions about the game, about the team. So I put a lot of value in that compared to most managers, and I do think that it's not a certainty, but it's certainly a priority, if you get me. So, I think that's probably the first area Chelsea are going to look, but I don't think they've decided what type of player they're going to sign. I don't think they've decided which player they're going to sign yet. And all the ones they're looking at are all very different and all have problems. So like Osimhen, he's playing in AFCON anyway, so that's an issue, right? He's had an injury as well recently, so how fit is he? I think that, Gyökeres as well, expensive as well. Only just moved to Sporting. He's a player that was at Brighton, so I think Paul Winstanley knows him, but he's got that issue that he's going to be really expensive. I think he has a release clause of something like £88 million, which is a fortune. Maybe he's not worth that. Tony, very hard to get as well, expensive. I mean, if Chelsea spend the money, they get Tony. I think that's the benefit of him. But he's a bit older. He's not a typical project player that they've been looking at recently. And then they've got Nusa, who's a young winger. I know he's not a striker. He does get goals, so they might go down that route. I don't know if that's what they need. I don't think it is, but Poch might be able to make it work in like a versatile system. And Rooney Bardaj, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Copenhagen, he scored against Man United in the Champions League. He's another option. Chelsea love him, but 18 years old, what kind of impacts are going to make? So all these guys have problems, and I think the best solution would be if Broya does really well, and like you say, if Nkunku's up and running at least by the AFCON, able to play some good minutes, if they could get by with those two, and Jackson's done okay, that might change their mind. I think that all these guys are fighting to prove themselves still, and I also think if Chelsea sign a striker, it's going to cause problems as well. In that the guys they have aren't going to be that happy, right? I think Jackson still wants to be the main man. I know he's had a bit of hit and miss, but he still wants to prove himself. He still thinks if he has time, he's going to be good. I think Breuer will feel similar. He has interest from good clubs, so it's a really tricky one. It's a really tricky balancing act. So I think Chelsea will sort of play it by ear, and that might be smart. I mean, that's how they got Cole Palmer, and that's how they've benefited. And maybe there's another left field option where they loan someone random, that they could go down that route as well. So yeah, they'll be waiting. They'll be seeing who gets injured as well. I mean, we're talking about players coming back, but new players could get injured all the time. They seem to regularly with Chelsea. Sheffield, no one injured, thankfully. But yeah, there's a lot to consider here. I hope that sums it up. But it's kind of a priority, but it's not decided, if you get me. And that's some of the considerations that are going on. Yeah, we'll see how good Breuer can be in the next few weeks as well, because I think that's going to be key.
Well, I tell you what, it is interesting because, goals are going to be really important. You talk about bringing Nkunku back slowly. Osman isn't a quick fix. He's also going to AFCON. We're going to have to crowdsource this, I think, if we can get this together. At the end of the day, this team is never going to be reliant on one striker. I also think the owners, we've gone over this with different times, like the Lukaku thing has kind of burned them. So I think they've tried to spread out the wealth and the payments of this thing so they don't have everything sunk in one player. But the one ripple now that has really just kind of caught us off guard all of a sudden is Newcastle don't want to play Lewis Hall. And as the Lewis Hall stan of the pod, I never thought that this might boomerang back, where they don't want to play our man Louis. What's going on over there? We have an update on that? Like, because if he doesn't play so much, then it's not a forced sale, right?
Yeah. I do have an update on that. I think that Lewis Hall, he's I don't think the situation's changed as much as it sounds. I think that Eddie Howe, when you've done Newcastle a lot, like I have, in pre-season I was around Eddie Howe a lot, and he's a very evasive manager. And I think what he's done there is he said the right thing, but he's kind of thrown a bit too much doubt on it. And I think that they still expect to sign him Newcastle. I mean, the clause that he has some sort of obligation to buy, it's quite murky, and I don't know the exact details, but if he plays a certain number of games or minutes and things like that, he will get bought for the agreed fee, which is around 28 million, but it's heavily weighted with a lot of bonuses and things like that. And I think that the bar is very low, so he's not reached it yet. Eddie Howe played it down, that he doesn't know what's going to happen with him, which is true. I mean, they might not get there, but I think they still expect to get there, sort of thing. And I think that Lewis Hall hasn't played that much for Newcastle, but let's not forget he's a young lad. Eddie Howe doesn't have to play an 18-year-old. We forget he's barely out of school, this kid. So he was playing for Chelsea at 17. He's playing for Chelsea at 16. He was only been a professional for 1 year, I think, basically. So we sometimes a little bit forget how young Lewis Hall is. And I still think Newcastle expect to sign him, probably will sign him. And I'm sorry, but it isn't that bad news for Chelsea. I know a lot of Chelsea fans, like you, Brandon, you want to see him stay and you weren't that happy to see him go. But Chelsea have got a good fee there. And, selling Lewis Hall helps them spend money elsewhere. And if we're talking about bringing in strikers, it's always connected to player sales. So if they're not going to bank that kind of money, then, you're not going to get a striker. So I think that, as we say, he's pure profit, an academy player. It's a big fee. There is a benefit to selling him, but and I expect he'll join Newcastle. Not much has changed. It's just Eddie Howe played things down a bit too much and made it look like something had happened when it hadn't. I still think he'll be a Newcastle player next year, but it's not certain. It's definitely not certain. And I know that he even deleted his goodbye message to Chelsea, but I think until it's certain, it's probably just Lewis Hall as well, being careful on his Instagram page and try not to look silly in case the surprising happens. It's possible he stays at Chelsea, but not likely.
So you're saying there's a chance. All right, Naz, I'm back in all day on that one. Appreciate it. We'll get more updates from you, especially as we get closer to January, because you are crushing it per usual. But Dan, you've got Dan of the match because, hey, we won. So what did you go with?
Well, look, it was no surprise that cold Cole Palmer was the winner with 65%. Caicedo, very close, not really second, with 20%. It was Gallagher with 14% and Sterling with 2%. So that was the four we went with. I think Badishio was another one people were kind of pointing to. But look, it was just going to be Palmer as a runaway train. So it was really... the three others really didn't matter. I'm sorry. That's just the way people were going to vote. I understand how the public works.
Harsh on the other three, but the votes stand. I think that not a lot of nitpicking. I'm sure you didn't get roasted too much, but yeah, Benoit. They just didn't do enough, right, to really deserve it. As much as I would even throw Petrovic in there for his first clean sheet on his first start, it's like, hey, he didn't earn it. So I'm very rational per usual. Nick, some of the other results around the league from this weekend, we are recording as Arsenal and kind of the 9 a.m. matches or 8 a.m. matches just wrapped up. It's ahead of big old Man United for Naz versus Liverpool, but there's some surprises.
Yeah, weird day. Tottenham beat Forest on Friday 2-0. Bournemouth and Luton, of course, was postponed. We'll quickly touch on that in a second. We beat Sheffield United. City and Palace drew 2-2.
95th minute penalty for Palace.
No Holland, all problems.
Yeah, yikes. Newcastle beat a 10-man Fulham after one of the most ridiculous red cards I've seen in some time. Everton easily beat Burnley. Arsenal, I think this is full-time now. Yep, 2-0 over Brighton. Brighton were terrible. Brentford and Villa with red cards. Villa with the win 2-1. West Ham beat Wolves 3-0. So I don't know if there are any real surprises in there except for Palace. But yeah, the league is kind of beginning to shake out a little bit in terms of who's the quality, who's not.
Naz, obviously your favorite fixture from the weekend ahead of United Liverpool. I'm assuming you're not going to choose that one.
No. Has to be City. I saw the way that Pep reacted to the last minute goal, and Roy Hodgson celebrated with a little cheeky laugh. I loved that. That was probably my highlight of the weekend. I've not actually seen the match of the day yet, or the highlights of the other games. So, but that's pretty much the only thing I've seen. I saw a bit of the West Ham game, and Kudu's playing well, but I don't think I'll be watching the upcoming match. It's about to kick off in 25 minutes.
No, come on.
I'm feeling, although the lineup, at least Luke Shaw's back, so that's something.
You're not enjoying the Graham Potter to Manchester United links?
Come on.
Well, the bad thing is that Man United's best player is out, Harry Maguire. So he's been in top form, and without him, we are screwed. I've decided to go out instead. So after this, I'll be off out watching the abuse on my phone roll in from you guys.
Yeah.
No.
Come on.
Jeez, Naz. Look, table as it stands, Arsenal in the pole position with 39 points. Villa in second with 38 points. Liverpool third with 37. Man City down to fourth on 34 points. Tottenham right on everybody with 33 points in fifth. Chelsea, we are up, down, stay, wherever you want to call it, in 10th with 22 points. And the relegation, Luton in 18th, Burnley 19th, Sheffield United 20th, as we know. But before we wrap, Nick, you did comment here on the Luton-Bournemouth match because it ended up being abandoned. Scary scenes here.
Yeah, really scary. So Tom Lockyer collapsed during the game. They sent an update after. Super emotional scenes. Everyone came out and clapped the fans for, I think just being aware and kind in that situation, which is incredibly difficult. They said our medical staff have confirmed that the Hatters captain suffered cardiac arrest on the pitch, but was responsive by the time he was taken off on the stretcher. He received further treatment inside the stadium, for which we once again thank the medical teams from both sides. Tom was transferred to the hospital, where we can reassure supporters that he's stable and currently undergoing further tests with his family at his bedside. We'd like to thank everyone for their support, concern, and loving messages. This happened in June as well during the playoff final for an irregular heartbeat that he had surgery for. And we don't know exactly what happened here, but cardiac arrest would kind of signal to me, Naz, that this is, maybe a deeper issue for him. But I think everyone was incredibly cool during that match, especially the fact that it had to be abandoned. I think everyone handled this incredibly well. I'm glad that he's healthy.
Yeah, it was nice to see a match abandoned. Football's not that important. The result's not that important. So yeah, it's good to see he's fine in the main. He's stable at least. And yeah, we'll see how this one develops. But yeah, credit to like the medical staff and people like that, and the hospital staff who resuscitated him and made sure he's okay, and made sure that bigger things in life than football continue for Tom Lockyer. Yeah. I think he's very loved around Luton. It's a great club. They're doing brilliant stuff, and yeah, they just showed how classy they were. And what's great about it is seeing how the away fans and the away team react. I think Philip Billing, I saw a clip where he was like one of the first people to react and stop the game, and just seeing the human side of it's not just all about the result, it's about people, and everyone is part of a community here in football, and I thought that was brilliant. So yeah, I think it's a reminder that it's not that big football, and that these things, people's health and all this kind of stuff is much bigger, and a really good show of community and medical support, and well done to everyone involved, because it was really handled brilliantly, like you say.
Yep.
Well, again, starting to happen a little bit more. Keep an eye on it. Really happy that this seems to be in a stable condition, but super scary. We've seen it with Christian Eriksen at the World Cup or the Euros, can't remember which, and we've seen some more. So human element first, which I appreciate us kind of rallying around. So anyways, that's going to wrap us up. As always, Naz, appreciate all the knowledge you bring to the pod. Continue to check him out on the Standard. Lots more on social as always. The Match Ground videos, big fan. Big fan, Naz. Keep it up. All right. Until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.